All right, welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Fantasy Football Addicts. I'm your host, Austin Shibley. This is Mick and Wyatt, my co-hosts and good friends. We're here with a special episode today. We're going to give you guys our top 10 running backs for redraft mode of fantasy football. So we're going to break it down just top to bottom, and we're going to debate on why certain people are higher than others, why people are lower, why we have certain people that others don't, and we're just going to give you all some good player analysis while we do it. So anything y'all want to say before we get started?
Your list is wrong.
Yeah, clearly we all have very different opinions. We just saw each other's lists. I think they're interesting.
Y'all are both
Everyone has a
wrong, so
I think y'all are wrong. Obviously, my opinion's
Everyone
best.
has a different take, but that's what they're here for. Is we're going to give you all a variety of takes, and y'all can decide whose points are better, and y'all can take an average if you want.
I will say Dawson was the redraft league champion last year, so I think his list holds priority right now.
Have a slight 1% advantage right now.
I'm a three-time redraft league champ.
Yeah, I think we're all good resources.
So before we get started, let's just don't forget to follow us on Twitter at the FF Addicts. We'll have it on the screen again, just like last video.
Somewhere down there.
Yeah, somewhere around here. And so without further ado, let's share my screen. All right, so top 10 running backs for redraft. As you all know, who's going to be number one? It's pretty standard. All three of us have Christian McCaffrey of the Carolina Panthers. We don't have anything to say about this, do we? I mean, obviously, he's just going to put up.
He was like a monster last year. He was probably one of the greatest fantasy seasons ever.
I don't have anything to say about CMC, but I would like to clarify that my individual list before we grouped together was nice and color coordinated, and had it all. So my mental notes are going to be a little skewed, but it's fine. I've got my original sheet right now
by color coded. So Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, 2,000 yards from scrimmage, going to probably do the same thing again. He has a better quarterback situation, so I don't see any reason why the offense won't be any better, allowing him to score more. It's going to be just another pretty typical year for Christian McCaffrey. And at number two, pretty undisputed once again. I think everyone has these top two at the same. Saquon Barkley.
I almost didn't take Saquon at the two. I will say that my next pick. I think it's this list. I almost didn't take Saquon at the two on one of my lists for sure.
I mean, Saquon, same thing as McCaffrey. Just
nothing really to say. It's just like, hey, this is like universal. Everybody has these top two at the top two.
You could argue like injury history with Saquon, but he came back. He performed at a high level.
I mean, he had like a 6 to 8 week injury that he came back from in like 2 weeks.
Yeah. So the dude's a freak.
He's gonna get a stupid amount of touches, and he's going to be highly efficient with them. They improved their offensive line in the draft. He should just have another great year. And so this is where we get a little different. We're going to go with number three.
He's Sean Vaughn.
We forgot to say that we're going to go down my list, and wherever they differ, we're going to show who has them at which spot. So my list, I have at number three, Alvin Kamara, which everyone else has lower than that. At the 5 and at the 5 as well. So Alvin Kamara, I have him at the 3 because I think last year he finished as the RB12, so still an RB1 on a 12-team league. And he did that on the worst touchdown regression that anyone's ever had in a season. He scored, 18 touchdowns his rookie year or second year, something like that, and then went to like 15 touchdowns. And then this year he had, 5? I think he had 3 through the first 15 games. Everyone knows he had that high ankle sprain. It came out, the news report came out, he had the high ankle sprain, back injury, knee injury. He's playing through all of that. I just don't see a way. I think this season that he just had at RB12 is his absolute floor. And I think he's in for a monster season. Drew Brees is going to be healthy, hopefully the whole season. And they add Myles Sanders to the offense, which is just going to give them more higher power offense than they already have. And I think it's just a smash button for Alvin Kamara this season. What do you guys think? Why do you have him a little bit lower than I do?
Well, I think that Alvin Kamara is not really much of a run in between the tackles idea. He's more of a catch it and go. And with Myles Sanders there, that's like a legitimate number 2 receiver that they haven't had in quite a while. So that's going to take away some of his targets, and that's where he made most of his points, honestly. He didn't have very many. Last year, he didn't have a single game over 100 yards rushing, and he had a bunch of games where he had 7, 8, 9 catches, 10 catches even one game. So if you got another receiver out there, that's less targets for Alvin Kamara to take.
Yeah, I agree with Mick on that. And also, I just think, I don't know. I did this off of PPR, and I think that actually gave Kamara a boost. So we're in a PPR. That's how I did it. I do think he would have been lower, actually, in non-PPR leagues. But I don't know. He's a special run talent, but Latavius Murray is like right now projected like 10 fantasy points a week. That's obviously drawing off of Kamara. He was dealing with the injury all last season, and like obviously they're gonna say he's good, but like I don't know. I think he's a good talent. I just don't think he's gonna be a workhorse back. Like I don't see it. He's losing targets. I think he'll run. They'll be decent. They'll be a middle of the pack guy, but I don't think you should be drafting him top 3.
I agree that he will not get as many touches as the top 3 guys or as many rushing attempts. But what he doesn't get in rushing attempts, he gets in targets. He had 100 targets last season almost. He's had 100 targets his rookie year, 105 his second year, and 97 his third year. So he's a 100-target guy. And I do agree that might dip a little bit with Emmanuel Sanders. But the targets that Emmanuel Sanders gets and the target that Alvin Kamara gets, I don't know if they're really going to – if anything, I think it takes from Michael Thomas. Would you not agree?
Yeah, but if you have another receiver who's open, that's less likely that Drew Brees is going to have to go to the check down, which is Alvin Kamara.
That's a good point. I do think he's gonna sit around 180 rush attempts, maybe 200, but he's still gonna be highly efficient with those. He averages 4.6 yards a carry.
I bet he takes a pretty good drop in.
I think he takes a drop in targets. I think he runs. He runs more productively this year, obviously, but I think, that doesn't help you as much as the target. So you will see a slight regression as far as like time on the field for fantasy points. And I find it very hard to take him over the next guy on probably both Mick and I's list. I'm not quite sure, but I think there's just more solid options with high floors.
Which we will get to that guy. This one right here, the guy that they're talking about, is number 4 for me, and number 3 for both Mick and Wyatt is Ezekiel Elliott. And I'll let you guys talk about him and explain. Let's someone break him down, because I think everyone knows he's going to get a lot of touches, but what else can you talk about him?
So Zeke is a monster. Like, there's no arguing that. He's really good, but I think that he was kind of taken away last year from Jason Garrett, because there was a lot of times where they would start the first or second drive of the game and they would run the ball, score, and then Jason Garrett was like, you know what, screw this, we're going to start throwing it now, acting like the running wasn't working. With the new coaching staff with Mike McCarthy in there, I'm just thinking that, hey, like, Mike McCarthy knows that's what he did wrong. That's what Jason Garrett was doing wrong with the offense last year, and Zeke's going to get even more touches than he did last year, I think, and it's going to be unstoppable.
I could not agree less with the fact that he will get more touches than last year, and here's why. Mike McCarthy with Aaron Rodgers, obviously it's Aaron Rodgers, but when he was on the Packers, they were the number 1 passing offense. They had the most passing attempts in the league every year. He's a pass-first guy.
Who was their running back? Who was their running backs? Eddie Lacy?
Eddie Lacy, yeah. Not a great running back. I still think their offense is pass first.
The difference is, like, he's inheriting a really good running back. In Green Bay, he never even, like, tried to boost up that running game. Like, he was just like, Aaron Rodgers, go do your thing. And, again, Dak is not even close to the ability of Aaron Rodgers.
Exactly. I think McCarthy has the experience with Rodgers and knows that he kind of messed up there. Like, he had the potential, but he only relied on that. And I think he'll realize very quickly and already knows that Dak is not special. He's not the guy. So he's going to use that O-line, use Dallas's style of offense, which is run the ball, get in good position. And then he's going to use Dak to, when he needs to, 2nd and 6 or whatever, to get the first down. I think it's going to be a great combo. I think they're going to be a great offense. I think they're going to way overperform, where last year they totally underperformed. And I really do. I think they're not going to take a lot of gambles in the red zone. I think Zeke's getting the ball inside the 5 and they're punching it in. I think that McCarthy knows what he has in that offense, and he's just going to feed Zeke in order to be successful.
I do agree that obviously I don't have him super low. I have him one spot behind y'all. I just think when I was really debating between Alvin Kamara and Ezekiel Elliott, and I think that with Mike McCarthy being at least what I've seen, he's a pass first guy, which is why I had him one spot below. But I do agree the amount of touchdowns that he's going to score is like he could score a stupid amount of touchdowns this season with how good that offense is going to be. So I agree. I think everyone should have Zeke in the top 5 as a top 5 back, and
the only thing that makes me nervous about him is that they had Travis Frederick, their center, retire.
Yeah,
and that's the only thing that worries me. But I still think his touches will go up, even though his yards per attempt will go down.
I do think he will still just be a top 5 back all season, and that leads us to my 5th guy, and Nick's 4th guy, and Wyatt's 7 guy, Dalvin Cook. And before we talk about Dalvin Cook, we are operating on our list. We are operating under the assumption that he signs a contract. Obviously, if he doesn't have a contract signed by the time you draft, I wouldn't advise taking him. But this is all under the assumption that you're drafting in August, late August, early September, and the fact that he is signed a contract. So Dalvin Cook, I have him at the 5. Obviously, everyone's going to have him in that top 5. Most everyone, at least. A lot of people are going to have him in the top 5.
That's your Wyatt.
And that rushing offense, they just used him just so much. They built the offense around him. They lose Stephon Diggs, which means that it's less. I think that's going to take a little bit slight dip in the passing volume. And as long as he can stay healthy, I think he's a smash for a top 5 running back. That's just what I'm worried about. I think that's probably part of what Wyatt's worried about is his being healthy. I don't think we've seen him play 16 games yet in his career.
Yeah.
Wyatt, what's your reasoning for having him at the 7?
Absolutely. Definitely worried about him getting injured. And I know it sounds a little hypocritical because last video I said you can't draft around trying to guess injuries. You'll pull your hair out. But
we've seen his history.
You have the history. Yeah,
right.
I think he's another one of those guys. There's so many in the league, especially a running back. The injuries just start and they keep going and they keep going. I think last year, his potential, his talent is insane. When he's on the field, he's great. I just think he's going to be one of those guys. I think he got lucky last year playing as long as he did, as hard as he did, carrying the Vikings because Kirk Cousins, if he's not playing at noon, if he's in a primetime game, like he's done for. So, I think
he touched the ball just an insane amount of times last season. Even when he was hurt.
I think he got so lucky, just not getting hurt, and then you saw it at the end of the season. The shoulder just fell apart very quickly,
right.
And I'm worried about that. And I think if you're going to spend top 5 draft capital, you should have a guy is going to be on the field, getting you at least 15 a week. And I don't feel comfortable drafting Cook.
Looking at his numbers, he had 313 touches last season, and he only played 14 games. So just the amount of time he touched the ball per game was insane. The fact that he did not get hurt with how often he's been hurt, it just surprises me. So I do agree that the injury risk is very high for him. Nick, anything you need to add?
The only reason why, Dalvin Cook's a monster, the only reason why he's not the number 2 guy on my list right now is because of the injuries.
Yeah. So that brings us to number 6. Big man, Derrick Henry, who Nick has at the 8. And Wyatt, where you at? You have him at the 6. So Derrick Henry, for redraft purposes, I think is going to easily be a top 6 back. So this year, redraft, I would smash it because he's going to get that offense runs through him. They built that offense around him once again. Ryan Tannehill is just a time manager. Derrick Henry, it's his job. I think he's going to score probably 15 touchdowns this year. So what do you guys think?
I just have him a little bit lower because I don't know how many touches he had last year or towards the end of the year, but he played 20 games last season where he had to carry the ball 30 times, including the playoffs. I just don't see him doing that again. That's just too much to put on one guy, even though the dude is huge. I just don't see it.
Yeah. This was a tough one for me. I think this was one of the ones I had in yellow as far as caution when drafting him around the 6. And I just think he's just an animal with, I don't know if he has injury history. And I know he has no serious injury history. And he's going to get the touches. They, signed Tannehill to that long-term deal, which I think is disrespectful. to Henry, but yeah, it's his offense, and you can't really ask for much more. I think you could definitely argue inside of the top 5. I like him right around the 6 in comparison to the other guys. He doesn't catch the football.
That was another drawback for me. He doesn't catch the ball.
Yeah, so that obviously hurts in PPR, but yeah, he's just an absolute animal. I don't see him falling outside of the top 10. There's some people just absolutely fading him, and I don't get that at all. I mean, he single-handedly beat 2 playoff teams. So
yeah, he had 303 just rushing attempts. He only had 18 catches, and so he had 300.
That's rough.
So that's the one reason he's a little bit lower than the other guys, is solely just because of the passing game. It's non-existent. That takes us to our number 7 guy, Joe Mixon, who Mick doesn't have in the top 10, and Wyatt has down in the 9. So I have him a little bit higher than they do, and here's my take on Joe Mixon, because I am all in on Joe Mixon this year, where he's being drafted.
Boomer Sooner.
Yeah, Boomer Sooner. I'm an OU fan, so love him for that. But that has nothing to do with why I love him this year, because I did not like him last year. But this year, I think the two or three of their starting offensive linemen were out for the season before the season even started. So that people that use Joe Mixon had a bad year last year. He's not good. He was RB19, whatever. He's not coming out. We have to operate on the assumption that his offensive line is healthy as it is right now. And if his offensive line is healthy, he'll obviously rush more efficiently. And you add in the fact that they now have Joe Burrow, who targeted the running back at one of the highest percentages in all of college football last year. He's going to throw the ball, hopefully, to Joe Mixon. I mean, they have Gio Bernard there, but he's going to catch some passes. But I think Joe Mixon is going to take a bump in the receiving game, and he's going to take a bump in yards per carry. And I think he's going to finish as a top 10 back. Wyatt, you have him at 9. Mick, you don't have him in your top 10.
I don't think I even have him in my top 12.
What is your reasoning behind it? What do you not like about Joe Mixon?
So Joe Mixon has played 3 years in the NFL, and he has 1 top 10 finish, and I was at 9th. I believe that was in 2018, so the year before last, and that was with the healthy O-line. So with an offense that's going to be surrounded by Joe Burrow, I don't see him getting as many touches. I don't see him as getting it. I mean, his passing numbers might go up, but they're really there. Like the whole Bengals offense is going to be surrounded by developing Joe Burrow, that I just think that they're going to give him the backseat.
Don't you think that's a way they're going to ease Joe Burrow into the NFL, is give Joe Mixon 15 to 20 touches a game and let him just eat up clock and help Joe Burrow kind of manage the offense as he gets acquainted?
I think that they're going to be working on the chemistry between him and T. Higgins, because those two are both rookies into this year. Tyler Boyd's kind of like I guess you can call him a vet. He's like a 3rd, 4th year in the league. I think they're going to be working together. And then A.J. Green is just going to be dad in that wide receiver core. I mean, Joe Mixon will definitely have a higher uptick in passing and reception numbers, but I just don't see it in the running game.
That's exactly why he actually made it into my top 10, is because I think they're going to be trailing a lot, and Burrow does target the running back at a high rate. So I think especially in their division, he's going to have some rough games. And I don't know. He squeaked in my top 10. Don't love it.
He's got to play the Ravens twice, and he's got to play the Steelers twice.
I do see the argument against Joe Mixon. That's why I have him lower. He's definitely a risky pick, but I do think if he hits, he could be a league winner. If everything works out how I think it could be, he could finish top 4.
Yeah, if I'm completely wrong about Joe Mixon, which is completely possible, that
you're okay with that.
Won the league. Yeah, you just won the league, because you're going to get him in the late 2nd, early 3rd round, most likely, in a redraft league. Yeah, so you're just going to – it's a league winner.
That takes me to our 8th pick, Myles Sanders, who Nick has at the 6 and Wyatt has at the 10. Myles Sanders, I love him. I mean, I know that y'all aren't as big on him for dynasty purposes, but I love him for this year at least, for sure, in redraft, because I don't see them signing anyone. I mean, who's left? Devontae Freeman is the only other signing I'm really worried about. But if they don't sign anyone else, I think he's actually going to have a workhorse role, and we saw what he did with that at the end of the season last year, and I think he'll be fantastic at that spot.
Yeah, I have him ahead of Derrick Henry just because he can catch passes and he can run the ball, and he's the feature guy in that offense in the running game. He's like a monster, but I do not like him in the dynasty league. But for Myles Sanders, I just see the Doug Peterson thing with all the running back by committees he's run. That scares me in a dynasty. But for the redraft purposes, I think he's going to be an absolute monster. I wouldn't be surprised if he did finish a top 5 running back this year. But the difference between him and Derrick Henry is definitely the catching.
Why do you have him at the 10?
So this was actually very painful for me to put him in my top 10. It took me a minute to do because I have just talked so much trash about Myles Sanders over the past month. And yeah, I'm kind of there with Mick. Obviously, I don't have him at the 6, but he is the guy there, believe it or not. I don't know how it happened, and he catches passes. He can run the ball decently. The Philly offense, I think, receiver-wise, struggles. I think we all know that. And
he's going to get a lot of volume, I think, as long as they don't sign anyone else.
Yeah, I don't love it. ADP is way too high in Dynasty. I don't like that at all.
Mm-hmm.
But for redraft purposes, if you can get Myles Sanders like late second round, I think getting him right around a top 10 back is good value because he can win you your league this year.
Right.
And I don't think he'll lose you your league because it's PPR and he's going to catch passes regardless of what happens in that offense.
Right. And that takes us to our number 9, I have Josh Jacobs, and Mick also has him at the number 9, and White has him at the 8. So we're all pretty close on Josh Jacobs. I think we all see him as a fringe RB1. The only thing I really worry about with Josh Jacobs is the receiving game. They have like 5 receiving running backs on that roster. And they added Henry Ruggs. I just don't see him catching a lot of passes. They say they want to use him in the passing game, but I'm worried that they didn't show that in the draft. And I still think he's going to be a good running back. He's going to get a lot of touches. He's going to improve from last year, just another year in the offense. He's going to be a good running back. I think he'll be a solid RB 8 through 11 this season. You guys have anything to add to that?
Yeah. I just like him for his running ability. He can catch the ball, but I don't think he's going to, like in that offense. So if I knew that, if I had a pretty good feeling that he was actually going to be used in the passing game, I probably would have slimmed him up a few ticks. But right now, I just don't see him actually being able to. I know he has the ability to, talent-wise, but I don't think that.
Right. It's just something that we can't.
Is going to do that. Yeah. It's just
something we can't bank on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't hate the Raiders this year as a team. I think they'll be semi-competitive. So Josh Jacobs will get a solid workload. Obviously, I don't think he's going to be catching a lot of passes, but he's going to give you,
be reliable. He's got a solid floor in the rushing game.
Yeah, solid floor. Ceiling's not obviously Cook high, but yeah, I think he's going to get the goal line work, obviously. And it's just he's just a solid guy, man. I think he's going to have a great career in the long run. But this is redraft, so I think right around the 8 seems about right to me, just because he's more of a sure bet than a Mixon or a Sanders, in my opinion, for guaranteed points and not quite the bust or boom value of Henry, Cook, Kamara, Zeke, McCaffrey. So.
Right. That really takes us to my number 10, who no one agrees with me, I believe, Kenyan Drake. And here's why I'm big on Kenyan Drake this year for redraft. And I totally see the risk because they added D-Hop over in the Cardinals, so they're going to throw the ball more, you would think. But just in that Cliff Kingsbury offense, I think they're going to run a massive amount of plays. He's going to get all the goal line work, and I think he's just going to be he's just in a good situation with that offense being a high-powered offense, hopefully. And we saw what he did at the back half of the season last year. I don't see anything changing in that situation. So I think this year only he is a smash in the redraft, but any other situation, I don't like him in Dynasty because he's at the end of his contract. Who knows where he'll go after that. But for redraft purposes, I like him as a fringe RB1. Guys, why do you not have him? I think you'll have him close, but just not quite top 10.
Yeah, I don't have him on the list because of Chase Edmonds. Chase Edmonds is a young running back, and Chase Edmonds had like 2 30-point games, like back-to-back, whenever David Johnson got hurt before Kenyan Drake came to town. But Chase Edmonds had a hamstring injury, and I don't know if you know anything about hamstrings, but they don't go away. So with Chase Edmonds coming back, it's been a year. His hamstring's probably good now. So I'm thinking Chase Edmonds and Kenyan Drake is probably going to split a little bit more than they did at the end of the last year, because I think Kenyan Drake mostly got a lot of that work because Chase Edmonds had a hamstring.
Yeah, I just think for a top 10 guy, you could get more than Kenyan Drake. I don't think he was ever special. I think Kyler kind of is a big focal point in that offense. Obviously, he's the quarterback, but when people game plan, it starts at the beginning of the season. It starts in preseason. It starts what teams are looking at. Kenyan Drake came in the middle of the season, kind of threw teams a curveball as far as defensively, matchups, all that. So I definitely think that helped his contribution on the field. So I think this year he kind of comes back down to earth, finishes as like a top 20 back. I think Kyler runs a lot. I don't think Kenyan Drake gets a ton. I mean, obviously he's going to be the running back there, but Edmonds will obviously be a factor. I don't think they're going to abandon him for whatever reason they like him. And I just don't see Kenyan Drake as a top 10 guy in redraft. I don't like it.
It's a fair enough take. I'm kind of iffy on him there, but I think for this year he's going to be solid. The guys that we missed on my list, where they have theirs in their top 10, number 7 for Mick is Austin Ekeler. And Mick, give your take on Austin Ekeler, because I do not have him that high, and neither does Wyatt.
So Austin Ekeler was the starting running back for the Chargers for, I think, 6 to 7 games last year. He was RB1, but I'm not really worried about his running numbers. I think he said in the last video he had like 500 to 600. I think he had 500 yards rushing, which doesn't bother me because he had 1,000 yards receiving last year. The dude catches passes. It's a PPR league. Like that's where you're making your money. 1,000 yards receiving. He had the identical amount of receiving yards as Devontae Adams last year, plus 400 yards rushing.
That is crazy. I do see the upside of Austin Ekeler. Why? Do you have anything to add?
Austin Ekeler, I don't like it because the offense has changed so much. You don't have Phillip Rivers. I think the quarterback situation is going to be iffy. The type of offense run is going to be iffy. That alone is enough to knock him out of the top 10 for me. On top of that, I don't think he's a true running back. Like Danny Woodhead was, a solid running back option there for, a little bit, whatever. I think Ekeler is just kind of this overhyped version of that. I think he's obviously a better player. I don't think he's a top 10 running back in the league. I don't think he's a top 20, 30 running back in the league, honestly. I just think that he's a product of a system. He's good at what it was last year. I think that changes drastically. I think the offense kind of exposes him this year, and they're going to realize that they need a workhorse back, and he's not the guy.
I don't quite agree that he's not top 20, but I don't have him in the top 10 solely for the Phillip Rivers reason. That's the take that everyone gives. Phillip Rivers is not there to dump it off to him as much. Whatever you say about Tyler Taylor, he's not going to throw to the running back as much as Phillip Rivers because no one does. So I think that's why he's
lining up in the slot last year. Like
he's going to be.
You can bring in Joshua Kelly or Justin Jackson, and he still could be on the field catching passes out of the slot, running slot runs.
I think he's going to take a slight upgrade in rushing and a little bit downtick in passing. He'll still be a solid top 12 running back in my opinion.
I think he's comparable to James White-esque style of play. Not a great running back by any means, but he catches a lot of balls.
Yeah. Right.
But you take Tom Brady out of there. Do you love James White? No, you don't.
Moving on to number 10 for Mick, and no one else has him in the top 10. Nick Chubb, I have him, I think, at 11. So we're not far off on Nick Chubb. The only thing I would say on Nick Chubb before I let you go is I have him. Next year I'll have him higher. Once Kareem Hunt leaves, it's his show, and he's going to be a dog. But did
you see Kareem Hunt? You see what he said?
What?
Kareem Hunt came out and said that he wants to sign an extension with the Browns. He wants to be there long term. He loves it there.
Wow. I did not hear that. But that damages him. That damages him for dynasty purposes. But as of right now, redraft, I don't like Nick Chubb as much. Nick, you like Nick Chubb, obviously.
Yeah. So Nick Chubb is a freaking pure runner. He ain't going to catch the ball very often. I like that offense. Baker Mayfield, he's very inconsistent. Sometimes he's hot, sometimes he's not. And when he's not hot, you're going to want to run the ball. And Nick Chubb is a very great option to do that with.
I agree.
I had a hard time putting him at 10. There's a few other guys. Aaron Jones was a guy who I was like, it just kind of scares me that I don't know what the Packers are doing. It kind of just drives me insane.
Based off of just our dynasty drafts alone, we can agree that Nick Chubb's ADP is way too high.
All right, and this takes us to our last pick that no one had in their top 10 for redraft. This is the boldest take we have. The boldest take we have on the channel probably right now. Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the number 4. We're only going to let Wyatt talk on this one.
Okay, hear me out. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That's the tweet, okay? The man is an absolute animal. Like, I'm putting him above Zeke if it wasn't for the COVID stuff. Because this man, Patrick Mahomes came out and said, draft Clyde. Give me Clyde. You got the future GOAT, the passing god asking for this man. He's going to put up so many fantasy points. I think – yes, if it wasn't for the COVID stuff, dude, he's right there with CMC for me. He might be I might take him at the 101. Like,
oh, you're on crack.
That's crazy.
I think you're on crack. He's pretty okay.
That's the one thing that's holding me back is for redraft purposes. Damian Williams is still going to be there. He's still going to be. Clyde's still going to be good, but he's still going to.
Clyde's getting the goal line work. We know this. This is known. Okay, it's not a question mark. And they're inside of the 20. They're in the red zone. He's got what I would say a 15, 20, possibly anywhere from 20 to 30% chance of catching the touchdown. And then he's got all the work going downfield. Like, I think they're going to be so deadly. They were a passing offense last year because they lost Kareem Hunt and they won a Super Bowl. Now, if they're deadly, exactly, that's what I'm saying. Now, if they have just as effective as a running game as a pass game, and he's in the pass game, this is all you could ask for in a running back. Like, if you put CMC on the Chiefs, you would freak out. Like,
I do. I think
it's the same thing. I think everyone freaks out because he's a rookie, but I don't think it matters. I really don't.
It's not so much that he's a rookie; it's the fact of where he's at.
Where he's at
with
Kansas City,
with who's with him. Damian Williams is still in the backfield.
I don't think he's a factor at all. I think he steals a couple rush. I disagree. I think maybe he's going to get 40% of the running work. Strongly disagree.
We'll have to come back to this video and we'll see, because I think there's going to be about a 40-60 split. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I still think Clyde's going to be a top 20 running back, maybe top 15, but I don't think he's going to be number 4 in the first year. Nick's probably on the same page with me on that.
He's at number 4, not because I think he's going to finish number 4. Yeah. He's at number 4 because he has the ceiling to finish number 1. Out of the 10 guys on this list, there's maybe 3 or 4 that I think actually have potential to go number 1. Maybe. All right. Well, that's the take that we're going to have to follow as the year goes on. But that will do it for our top 10 running backs. As you can see, we definitely differ on some places, but there's a lot of stuff that we do agree on. And I think it's up to you to kind of pick and choose what things you like and what you learn from it. Comment down below whose list you agree with more, or some things you would change on some people's lists, anything. Let us know what you like about the video. If you want to see more rankings videos, if you want to see more draft board videos, just let us know, give us feedback. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at the FF Addicts, gonna be somewhere around here. And do give us a like, subscribe, and comment. You guys have anything to say? Hashtag draft Clyde.
We're starting that, get that trending for Wyatt on Twitter. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. This has been another video from the FF Addicts. We'll till next time.